Very. So, Hagrid. This is kind of like a money quote. It's not like, you know, the debriefing at the end. But this just ripples all throughout. You should have ignored him, Arthur. Rotten to the core. Don't think anybody's out there. The whole family. Everyone knows that. Rotten to the core. What does that mean?
You're evil.
Okay. Does it mean pure evil? Is he, you know, Satan incarnate?
No, it's like he's basically an embodiment of like dark powers in a sense.
There's nothing good about a Malfoy. Malfoy, bad faith. Okay? Rotten to the core. The whole family. So that means Narcissa, his wife, will be introduced to later. Draco, obviously. Okay? No Malfoy's worth listening to her. Bad blood. That's what it is. Now, we could jump from here to book 3 when we get introduced to Aunt Marge. Because Aunt Marge is essentially going to say the exact same thing. Only it's not about the Malfoys. It's about whom?
Harry. Potters.
And extent the Potters. They're all bad. Except for Petunia. You know, Petunia kind of, you know, there's a bad one in every. And she even says, you know, you have a weak breeding leads to weak offspring. Okay? And that's when Mrs. Weasley goes, you know, just crazy. Find an example, et cetera, et cetera. What kind of blood does Hagrid have? Take that back. Can't answer that way yet. Have to answer it later. Chapter 5, Whomping Willow. They get to platform 9 3/4. Harry and Ron can't get through the barrier. So instead they fly. Arthur's flying forward to Anglia. They get seen. They get up to Hogwarts. They land kind of onto, however you want to put it, the Whomping Willow, which beats the snot out of the car. Well, beats the oil out of the car, I guess I should say. Page 76 and 77, they make their way up to the school, and they notice Snape isn't at the high table. Harry, bottom of 77. There's an empty chair. Where's Snape? Ron, maybe he's ill. Top of the next page. Harry, maybe he's left because he missed out on the Defense Against the Dark Arts job again. Ron, or maybe he's been sacked. I mean, everyone hates him. What happened the last time Ron said something like, everybody hates him?
He was there.
Hermione was there, right? Burst into tears, okay? Or maybe he's waiting to hear, etc., etc., okay? So, what does Snape want to happen? He wants them expelled. Why? Why really?
He hates them.
Okay, he does hate them. Maybe I'm completely, wrong about this. What did Harry do last year? I don't mean to Voldemort. Voldemort was unimportant for this purpose.
He put the blame on everything that was happening on him.
No. Seeker. Quidditch. He wants Harry gone so that Slytherins will win again. And that was something I didn't talk about at all the other day. Notice, Harry gets appointed. He gets named a seeker. He doesn't seek that. Okay? That is the only, that and the snitch that he catches are the only two important things about Quidditch for the remaining 6 books. I know there are other Quidditch matches, and other things happen in Quidditch matches, you know, falls off his broom, blah, 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 blah. Ultimately kind of unimportant. This is important. Why? What is Harry Potter seeking?
Information
What kind?
about his past.
About his past, about who he is, about what he is. Most philosophers will say, or theologians, etc., will say, everybody's got to deal with a couple of major questions at some point in their lives. 1, who am I? And 2, why am I here? What is my purpose? What mark am I going to leave behind? Kind of a thing. Harry doesn't know who am I, right? He knows just a little bit about his parents, okay? Does he know what his purpose? And I don't mean purpose, you know, book 7 purpose, but purpose. What is the meaning to life? He doesn't know that. Most 12-year-olds kind of don't at this point, 12 years old. So, McGonagall's the one to give the punishment and such, page 80. And notice what Harry starts to show. He doesn't show this in the previous book. Okay? McGonagall says, hold on a second. Page 82, sorry, I had the wrong page. Page 82. Dumbledore has told, you know, Snape, it's up to McGonagall to decide because she's head of the house, etc., etc. Snape and Dumbledore leave. Harry and Ron are left with McGonagall, page 82. She tells them Ginny's been sorted into Gryffindor. And she says, and speaking of Gryffindor, what's she about to say? Term hasn't even begun. You've already lost points for your house. But Harry cuts in. When we took the car, term hadn't started yet. So Gryffindor shouldn't really have points taken from it. Should it? Notice he watches her anxiously, like, is this going to fly? Do I have a chance here? And she gave him a piercing look, but he was sure she had almost smiled. Why?
She wants to be Slytherin again, and she doesn't have to take points from her own house.
Okay, probably true. Why else?
I think she appreciates cleverness. I think she really enjoys seeing, like, somebody come up with a clever solution to a problem.
Okay, what do you mean by clever?
I mean, quick wit.
Quick-witted, that's what this is. Has Harry shown a lot of quick wit before? No. I mean, they fall into devil's snare. He's clueless, okay? And he's clueless lots of times. He does show quick wit when he finally meets up with Quirrell. What does he finally do? He doesn't have a rationale for doing it. He reaches out and grabs him. He doesn't know that that's going to hurt him, okay? So, you both get detention. Harry's like, it's cool, fine, okay? What does Ron get for detention?
He's got to go polish the trophies.
Polish the silver and trophies. What does Harry get for detention? Man, that's just cold on McGonagall's part to give him that task, okay? He has to go help Gilderoy Lockhart write, you know, letters. So, chapter 6, Gilderoy Lockhart, not going to say much about it. Ron gets a howler from his mother, which is a doozy, by the way. Lockhart grabs Harry aside again during herbology, talks about, you know, seeking fame, etc., etc. Page 91 says, I understand why you want the publicity. I mean, some people know some things about you. What is this one scene? Tell us about Lockhart.
He can't fathom the idea of not wanting publicity.
Okay.
He looks at everything through his own lens.
Okay.
And
What else? Entirely true, entirely correct. What else?
I mean, it kind of goes back to him being a narcissist. If everything's about him and he's blaming himself for thinking that Harry wanted to do this for that publicity.
And take it just a little bit more. He has trouble
He kind of
accepting that somebody else is more well known than he is. How many people in the wizarding world know about Harry Potter? He defeated the greatest dark wizard when he was 1 year and 3 months old. What has Gilderoy Lockhart done?
wrote a whole bunch of best-selling books.
Wrote a bunch of kind of autobiographies. You pretty much, one should do it, but anyways, of things he's done or said he's done, as we're going to hear somebody say. So they have, Mandrake class, etc., plot device. That's all it is. It's just there to bring something up later. And I'm skipping a bunch of little details that are important, like on page 94, when we hear about Justin Finch Fletchley having been down for Eton. Anybody know what Eton is?
Private school.
We would call it a private school. It's called a public school there, but it's the best. It is the absolute best, what we would call a prep school. Preparatory for college. It's pretty much used to be, let me put it that way. The current royals don't follow it as much. It used to be, if you were royal and a male, that's where you went to school. Period. Okay? Charles didn't. Prince Philip had Charles go to school up in Scotland. So, they get to class. Defense against the dark arts, right? How did Snape begin defense against the dark arts? He fired off 3 rapid questions to Harry. And then he had him pull out, materials, and they read and they did experiment kind of stuff. What does Lockhart do?
Starts with both his books.
Me. He's got his picture, and his picture's smiling and everything. Page 99. Gilderoy Lockhart, Order of Merlin, 3rd class. What do we find out? Dumbledore's. Order of Merlin, 1st class. Honorary member of the Dark Force Defense League. How do you become an honorary member of something?
By becoming famous.
Okay? Is it because of something you've done? No. If you get an honorary doctorate, it doesn't mean you've done the work. Whether it's like a PhD doctorate or MD. Guess what? You don't get honorary MDs. Why not? Because you don't want somebody putting MD after their name who's never cut into a cadaver, who's never studied anatomy, physiology, kinesiology. Okay? Just don't go there. You don't get an honorary brain surgeon, certificate. He's honorary defense, Dark Force Defense League, and 5-time winner of Witch Weekly's Most Charming Smile Award. But I don't talk about that. But he did just talk about that because you just mentioned it. There's a particular word in rhetoric that's called, and I can never remember what it is, where you say something, and then you say, but I'm not going to mention that once you've already mentioned it. Okay? So, he notices that they've all bought a complete set of his books. Is there anything wrong with that? I've never asked this question before in teaching these books, but something I read just a couple of days ago made me think about it. Anything wrong with him requiring them to buy his books?
Definitely feels like an ethics issue.
Oh yeah, there's a huge ethical issue. Many universities do not allow professors to assign their own books to a class, with one proviso, unless that book is the quote-unquote standard text. Like there's a guy in, just one second, there's a guy in New York. He was just fired. Organic chemistry prof. He has written the standard textbook for organic chemistry. It's over 1,000 pages. He got fired from New York University because in a class of 350 students, 80-some students complained that he was too hard. This guy is regarded as like in the top 5 in the world in organic chemistry. And not just because of the science. He's a good teacher. He was teaching in his retirement as an adjunct at New York University. I mean, he kind of said, I'm willing to do this if you need it. He'd already finished a career at Harvard or Yale or Princeton or whatever, where he'd won all kinds of teaching awards. So he's not a bad teacher. Anyways, you had a question?
Honestly, I think the other kind of stipulation on that is if it's, you get paid for it up front and you never make any money off of it thereafter, because I had a book like that last fall.
Yeah, could be. Yeah, I don't know about that, because, I mean, there are a lot of professors who do. Again, if it's a major textbook, I use this one in my Intro to Lit course. It's called the Bedford Introduction to Literature. It is used around the country. I bet if Michael Myers, the guy who teaches it, not Shrek, Michael Myers, if he's still teaching, you know, he probably uses that book. But I've had colleagues who've required their books that have a very small print run or that are printed by a small press, not a major academic press, use books in their classes. And it should just be, no. I think MTSU now has a policy against that, okay? So, he gives them a quiz. What's the quiz about? Okay. Who gets it all right? Why?
Because it's Hermione and she's read all the books.
Okay, because it's Hermione and she's read all the books, and why else? And she kind of fancies him, you know? So, notice it's not just all about him. He does a practical lesson. I mean, this is Defense Against the Dark Arts. Jump up later, book 5, Defense Against the Dark Arts, we hear should be practical, right? Well, we hear from some that it should be practical. Others say it should be entirely theoretical. So what does he do for the practical part of the lesson?
He releases a bunch of pixies.
Releases a bunch of Cornish pixies. And pandemonium, okay? Who gets the pixies put away? Harry, Ron, and Hermione. Neville's swinging from, chandelier. Page 103. Can you believe him? Ron asks. Hermione, he just wants to give us some hands-on experience. Harry, hands-on. Hermione, he didn't have a clue what he was doing. Rubbish. You've read his books. Look at all those amazing things he's done. Ron, he says he's done. Notice what idea is introduced.
Maybe Lockhart isn't as credible as he says he is.
Okay, you said the word, he's a fraud. Lockhart,
Not as credible as he says.
not as credible as he says he is. What else, though? I mean, those are all true. There's a more important idea. Hermione, you've read his books. Look at all those amazing things he's done. Ron, he says he's done.
He's jealous.
No. What is Hermione saying about books?
They're all facts.
You can believe them.
That he's a liar.
Ron is suggesting Lockhart's a liar. Or, another way of putting that, you can't believe everything you read. Or you shouldn't believe everything you read. How does that figure into the larger book? Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. What is Harry going to do? He's going to get a book that has invisible writing that he's allowed to see, and what's he going to assume?
That it's true.
Everything in it is true. And yet, what will we come to discover?
It's not.
Most of it isn't. Most of it's a lie. Mudbloods and murmurs. Okay? So they're going to have Quidditch practice. They get out to the pitch, and which they've reserved, notice, and the Slytherins show up. And they have a little note from Snape saying they can practice. And Malfoy says, page 112, I'm the new Slytherin seeker, Weasley. Ron gaped, open-mouthed at the 7 superb broomsticks. Good, aren't they? But perhaps the Gryffindor team will be able to raise some gold and get new brooms too. You could raffle off those clean sweep 5s. I expect a museum would bid for them. Slytherin team laughs. Hermione. At least no one on the Gryffindor team had to buy their way in. They got in on pure talent. No one asked your opinion, you filthy little mudblood, and what happens? More pandemonium. So we've seen pandemonium at Flourish and Blotts, pandemonium in Defense Against the Dark Arts, now pandemonium on the Quidditch pitch. Why? Why does everybody go crazy?
Because it's an insult.
Because Malfoy insults Hermione. Notice what Ron does. He attempts to defend Hermione, but in doing so, he has his wand pointed backwards. Okay. So, notice Fred and George, jump over wood to try to get at the Slytherins and such. So Harry and Hermione take Ron to Hagrid's. They see Lockhart leaving. They wait till Lockhart's out of the picture. Page 114, 115. Hagrid says what Lockhart was there for, trying to give me advice, etc. And Hermione says, 115, I think you're being a bit unfair. Professor Dumbledore obviously thought he was the best man for the job. He was the only man for the job, Hagrid says. And I mean the only one. Getting very difficult to find anyone for the dark arts job. People aren't too keen to take it on. See, they're starting to think it's jinxed. No one's lasted long for a while now. How long is that for a while now? If we can bring something in from later books.
50 years.
Not 50.
Not 50.
Since Voldemort's day.
I thought it was 50 since the chamber was open.
Nope. Since when?
Oh, the girl died.
Nope.
Yeah, since Voldemort tried out for the Defense Against the Dark Arts job.
Which was not 50 years. Okay. How long has Snape been trying for it?
At this point, 12 years, I think.
Since Harry was, no, it wouldn't be 12 years.
Maybe 11.
Harry's 12 years old now. He's 11. Probably is. It shouldn't go there. We'll wait on that. So, who is he trying to curse? Hermione says, Malfoy. Harry says, Malfoy called Hermione something. Must have been really bad. Everyone went wild. What's that tell us about Harry in the word Malfoy called Hermione?
He's not comfortable saying it.
Is it that he's not comfortable saying it?
He doesn't know what it means.
He doesn't know what it means at all. It's like, bloop. None of you know what that means. But to the Wizarding world, it means a lot. So Ron says he called her mudblood. He didn't. Notice he growls. Hagrid does. He did. But I don't know what it means, Hermione says. I could tell it was really rude, of course. Why wouldn't Hermione know what it means?
She was also raised in a
She was raised in a Muggle world, and would the word mudblood appear in any books, any magical related books that Hermione would read? Does she read magical slang, magical curse words? It's about the most insulting thing he could think of, says Ron. Mudblood's a really foul name for someone who is Muggle-born. You know, non-magic parents. There are some wizards, like Malfoy's family, who think they're better than everyone else because they're what people call pure blood. So we have pure blood versus mudblood, and pure blood versus what do we call it? Yeah, non-pure blood. Because is it half blood, quarter blood, 16th blood? You know, all kinds of issues. I mean, the rest of us know, Ron says, it doesn't make any difference at all. Look at Neville. He's pure blood. He can hardly stand a cauldron the right way up. Hagrid, there's not a spell Hermione can't do. It's a disgusting thing to call someone, says Ron. Dirty blood. See, common blood. It's ridiculous. There's a corollary word in our world that doesn't use the word blood. Mud people. Goes back to the early 20th century. It may go back even farther than that. Used by white supremacists to talk about non-whites. Primarily blacks and Hispanics, but also Jews and Asians. Okay? There's another word, even more foul word, that in modern English has a very similar connotation, which I won't use because I already did it once in the first day of class, and you won't believe the hell it has caused. So, Ron, most wizards these days are half-blood anyway. If we hadn't married muggles, we'd have died out. So notice what this notion implies. Where is this kind of idea in our world? There are equivalents, if you want. Okay, royalty possibly. None of them are pure, quote unquote, pure blood. All right? It's things like the Aryan race, Hitler's master race, in other words, or pure, and I'm not saying this group is like this at all, so don't misunderstand me. Don't frickin' misunderstand me. It's like an idea of pure Jewishness or pure Hispanicness or pure pick-your-ness. Okay? Question is, are there any? No. So, let's just really punch all the buttons. You're applying for a job, right? What are you required in almost every job application to check off? Your race or ethnicity. What if your mother is black and your father is Hispanic? Both? What if your mother's father was a Jew? You see where I'm going with this? It's idiotic. It is utterly stupid. And the reason we have those check boxes goes back to the 1960s. Government forms, medical forms didn't require any of that until then. It's this kind of ideology invented literally by the federal government. Okay, and I don't know that Rowling is intending to bring all of that in, but with what she does here, and then what we'll hear a little bit later on, it kind of seems like she is. Like she wants us to stop thinking in this. Because this is really, ultimately, it's about race. Are we pure wizards or muddied wizards? Okay. What is Ron, by the way? He's pure blood. Okay. What's Harry?
That's technically speaking, he's like, that's a really loaded question. I mean,
Well,
technically speaking, if you go off his grandparents, he's half blood.
Is he?
Well, it's actually like 3/4 probably, once you make the argument.
That's part of, Elizabeth Warren, senator from Massachusetts, claims she was Cherokee Indian. It turns out, according to an actual DNA test, she has, 1,064th. And yet she actually got promoted and got listed on Harvard's faculty index as one of their only persons of color because of that. All right? So what is Harry? Harry's parents are both magical, right? Lily and James, I was going to say are both wizards, but it's not technically spoken that way. Lily's a witch, James is a wizard. Lily's parents? So Lily's a mudblood, okay? James's parents? At least one of them's magical. We don't know about both of them. Or we assume one of them, take that back, one of them is definitely magical. Why? Because we're going to find out the Potter name goes way back. And as we will find out at the end of this book, who is Harry's one of Harry's great ancestors. Or at least Dumbledore will imply it.
Did we get to the Penrose in this book yet?
No, that's later. Only a true Gryffindor could have pulled that out of the hat. Okay? And I'm one of those. Not everybody does. I think he's saying you're a real you're related to Godric Gryffindor. There's a reason why he grows up born in Godric's Hollow. Okay? Anyways. So, they continue talking with Hagrid. Hagrid, kind of makes fun of Harry with stuff with Malfoy. Skip a bunch. They go back up to the castle, and what does Harry hear for the first time? Voices. Page 120. Come to me. Let me rip you. Let me tear you. Let me kill you. Okay? As Harry is finishing his detention with Lockhart. What? Lockhart. What? Harry thought Lockhart said that. Okay? What are you talking about? You're tired. We'll finish. So his detention finishes. The Death Day party. Whose Death Day? Sir Nicholas de Mimsy Perpington, right? Or nearly had this Nick. When did he die?
1492.
What year? What date? October 31st, 1492. It's his 500th death day, which is telling us this book is set in 1992, which means book 1 is 1991, which is when the idea popped into her mind. So that's Harry's creation. So book 3 is in 93, and you go on down. Okay? This is also important because we know this is 1992, right? Later on, when we're going to find out about the Chamber of Secrets being opened, we're going to find out it was opened also when?
50 years ago.
Minus 50 equals 1942, when Britain was in the middle of World War II. Okay? So, Nick convinces Harry to come to his, death day party and such, and try to put a good word in for him. So why can't Nick ride with the headless hunt, not the nearly headless hunt? Because he's only nearly headless, Nick. He's still got a sliver of skin, keeping them together. All right? So, They leave the party, page 137. Skipping a lot because we have to. He hears the voice again. Rip, tear, kill. What? So hungry for so long. Kill. Time to kill. Turn page. They kind of follow the voice. Page 138. They get up to that third floor hallway. Kind of seems important within the novels because it was on that hallway that the troll entered the girls' bathroom. It's the same girls' bathroom. And we see a sign. Harry hears the voice. I smell blood. I smell blood. Bottom 138. Something was shining on the wall ahead. They approached slowly, squinting through the darkness. Foot-high words have been daubed on the wall between two windows. The chamber of secrets has been opened. Enemies of the air, beware. And they see something hanging underneath. Mrs. Norris, Argus Filch's cat. What is the student's relationship with Mrs. Norris?
They
Kick this wretched animal out the, castle. Ron, let's get out of here. Page 139. Harry, shouldn't we try and... Neville, Hermione, Draco, Dobby, Mrs. Norris. We could just go through and list all the people Harry tries to help, okay? Trust me, says Ron. We don't want to be found here. Why not? Filch is going to lose it. Is Filch going to curse them? Like pull out a wand? No, because we're going to find out very shortly. He's a squib. He can't do magic. All right? So, Malfoy comes in. Lockhart comes in. Dumbledore comes in. Snape comes in. McGonagall comes in. Etc., etc. And what does Snape again want to happen? Get him away from the Quidditch pitch, Kick him out of school, okay? What does Dumbledore say is wrong with Mrs. Norris? She's been petrified. So, Lockhart talks about, things he remembers. What does Filch want? Punishment, justice, revenge, probably more revenge than anything else, That's when Snape offers maybe Potter and his friends. This is just a case of being in the wrong place at the wrong time. But it's pretty, suspicious, etc. Page 144. The reason I'm going to focus on this is because something that's going to happen in book 5. Innocent until proven guilty, Severus. Actually, something's going to happen in the next book. It's something that kind of happened even the beginning of this book. Okay? Innocent until proven guilty. Where does that notion come from? Magna Carta, signed by King John, forced on him by the barons and nobles in 1215. Does the wizarding world really have a legal principle of innocent until proven guilty? No, it doesn't. How do we know? Azkaban, we won't say much more, but we're going to see people sentenced to Azkaban without a trial. Okay? Not as a holding cell, but, And we're also going to see what else. The unforgivable curses made forgivable, essentially, without a trial, without even an arrest. So, Dumbledore says, Professor Sprout has been doing what? Raising mandrakes. Guess what? We'll be able to make a mandrake potion in a while. Turns out to be when? End of the year. Notice there are things in some of the novels, book 2, parallel book 6, that happen at the beginning of a novel and then they're concluded at the end. For those of you who are aware, book 6, something happens both before the beginning of the novel and right towards the beginning of the novel that has its conclusion at the end of book 6. So you've got that parallel between 2 and 6. Okay? Hermione finds out, page 147, it's been in the library, all copies of Hogwarts A History have been checked out. Why?
Because everyone wants to know what the Chamber of Secrets is.
Everybody wants to know what the Chamber of Secrets is. So we get our first introduction to Professor Binns. Describe Professor Binns.
He's a ghost. He was sleeping in the staff room in the staff room, and he died, and he got up to teach the next morning and left his body behind.
And he's been teaching for apparently hundreds of years. Okay? What's he teach?
History.
Boring history of magic. His voice is described as a drone. It's not drone like, but drone like a bagpipe drone. When a piper is getting ready to start play, blows air into the pipe or into the bag, and then you'll just hear this meh. That's kind of Binns' voice. What question does Hermione bring up?
What do you know about the Chamber of Secrets?
And he says, it's a myth, it's a legend. My subject is history, page 149. I deal with facts. And what does Hermione do?
Aren't all legends rooted in fact?
She channels Aragorn, from the Lord of the Rings. She says, yeah, but aren't all legends and myths? Isn't there a little nugget of fact possibly there? He says, well, maybe, but I mean, this is sensational. It's ludicrous. Like a stone, sword in a stone kind of thing. I mean, come on. But now notice the whole class is hanging on his every word. This is a new experience for him. Because what do students usually do in the history of magic? Yeah, they drop off asleep. Okay? So he says, okay, Chamber of Secrets. And he gives us our first introduction to the founding of Hogwarts. A little bit more information will dribble out in some of the following books. The biggie is in book 5, where we get a lot of information. So, Hogwarts was founded over 1,000 years ago. We don't know the exact date. 4 schools named after the 4 founders. Godric Gryffindor, Helga Hufflepuff, Rowena Ravenclaw, Salazar Slytherin. They built the castle. For a few years, the founders worked in harmony together. So it's over 1,000 years old, and they only worked in harmony for a few years. Define few. Is it 2, 3, 4, 20, 30, 40, 50? If you say I'm going to have a few beers, what does that mean? 20, 30, 40, 50? No. 2, 3, 4, maybe. What's more, few or several? Several is more. Okay? It's probably less than 20, folks. They worked in harmony, seeking out youngsters, etc., but then disagreement sprang between them. A rift began to grow between Slytherin and the others. Why? Slytherin wanted to be more selective. How? He only wanted purebloods. He believed that magical learning should be kept within all magic families. Okay? Is he the only one that thought that? Pretty much, but not necessarily. There is one founder, we'll talk about later, who pretty much said, hell no. This founder said, I'll take them all. Don't mention the name. Don't want to talk about it yet. Okay? So, he says, that's what reliable sources tell us. Slytherin, according to the legend, created a Chamber of Secrets. He sealed it so that only he or an heir could open it, etc. It has some kind of monster. Right? 152. He says, nobody's ever found the chamber. Parvati Patil. Well, but you probably have to use dark magic to open it. Just because a wizard doesn't use dark magic doesn't mean he can't. Miss Pennyfeather. I mean, if the likes of Dumbledore, and we go back to book 1, right? Where McGonagall said, you're just too noble. Well, maybe you got to be related to Slytherin, Dean Thomas says. It is a myth. It does not exist. There is not a shred of evidence that Slytherin ever built so much as a secret broom cupboard. And yet there is a secret broom cupboard of sorts, right? What's it called? Room of requirement. So, we get introduced to Colin Creevey, which just between you and me, it's a shame he doesn't die in this book, but you know. Page 154 and 55. Harry, Ron, and Hermione go back to the scene of the crime, and what do they see? Spiders. Ron backs away. Why? Harry and Ron are laughing. It's not funny, says Ron, 155. If you must know, when I was 3, Fred, how old would Fred have been when Ron was 3? 5, 2 years older. Fred turned my teddy bear into a great big filthy spider because I broke his toy broomstick. Problem?
They technically aren't allowed to use magic as they age, and more than likely would not know how to do transfiguration.
Okay, they're not allowed to use magic, so they would have gotten a letter, you know, the Weasleys would have gotten a letter from the ministry, and more importantly, continue what
You
you...
really wouldn't know how to do it at that age unless it's one of those like uncontrolled bursts of magic that like Harry had so many of.
Okay, but turning a teddy bear into a giant spider sounds pretty controlled and focused. What else would it require? A wand. No, he lives in a magical home. Fred. He could have gotten Charlie's wand, or Bill's wand, or Arthur's wand, or Molly's wand, right? But what are we told about wands?
They don't work as well.
They don't work as well if you borrow somebody else's. Okay? I think the more important question is, how old is Fred? 5. They have difficulty at 11 years old with their own wands, turning what into what in their first charms class?
Needles and matchsticks into needles.
Matchsticks into needles, and making a feather float, and then with McGonagall in Transfiguration, turning a pincushion into a hedgehog, right? Pincushion, like a small stuffed animal. Hedgehog is real, living, breathing. Teddy bear, small stuffed animal. Big, giant, moving Shelob, you know. So they notice the water, they talk about that. They go in, Hermione says it's Moaning Myrtle's bathroom, etc., etc. And, let's see. Percy catches them, takes 5 points. Page 158. Ron says, you're worried I'm going to mess up your chances of being head boy. 5 points from Gryffindor. And I've got written off to my margins. See book 5. Anybody know why?
Ron gets made prefect in book 5.
Yeah, but what else? In book 5, we're told prefects can't take points. Head boys can. Head girls can. Prefects can't. Okay?
And then the inquisitorial squad can when that comes around.
Yeah, because they're the favored, you know, Stasi or KGB, etc. So, Hermione says, there is a way we could try to find out. We need to spy on the Slytherins. They talk about spying on the Slytherins. Hermione brings up the idea of Polyjuice Potion. Okay? Ron, what's that? Snape mentioned it in class a few weeks ago. And notice, not paying attention. So how do you make it? And she says, we know how to make it. 161, the Rogue Bludger. I'm trying to get through this quick. So, Harry gets knocked off his broom. 169. Let's see here. Now, 172, 173. Gets knocked off his broom, breaks his arm. Lockhart shows up to make him better. How does Lockhart make him better? Well, he no longer has a broken arm. I mean, that's true. What's the problem? He has no bones in his arm, so he's just got like a limp sock hanging. Okay? He goes to see Madame Pomfrey in the infirmary. She says, we can grow it back, but it'll be painful. It'll take a while. Hermione, 174. Anyone can make a mistake, Harry. Smack. Page 177. 176. Dobby shows up. So Harry's in the infirmary for a few days, growing his arm back. Growing his bones back. And Dobby shows up. You came back to school. I told you not to come to school. You know, even when I kept you from going through the... And Harry figures it out. It was you. 176. Yes, sir. Dobby hid and watched for Harry Potter, sealed the gateway. Dobby was so shocked when he heard Harry Potter was back at school. Harry, you nearly got us expelled. Dobby's wearing, you know, the snot-covered pillowcase, essentially. He asked, why are you wearing it? Mark of the house elf's enslavement. Okay? And Dobby explains, I can only be freed when my owners / masters give me a piece of clothing. Okay? The family is careful not to pass Dobby even a sock, he says. So, he tells Harry, you have to go home. I cursed the bludger. Harry, you nearly killed me. Okay? Harry says, 177, I don't suppose you're going to tell me why you wanted me sent home in pieces. Oh, if only Harry Potter knew, if he knew what he means. To us, to the lowly, the enslaved, we dregs of the magical world. Notice what the us is. To us. I think you could put a colon there. To the lowly, to the enslaved, we dregs of the magical world. Who does that include? Is that only house elves? No. Who else does it include? Really?
Anyone that's not a witch or wizard.
All non-human magical things. So, house elves, goblins, giants, centaurs. Take your pick of the magical beasts, you know, so to speak. Dobby remembers how it was when he who must not be named was at the height of his powers. We house elves were treated like vermin. Well, still are, but mostly, sir, life has improved for my kind since you triumphed over he who must not be named. Harry Potter survived. The Dark Lord's power was broken, and it was a new dawn, sir. Notice, the Dark Lord's power, which implies the darkness was broken, and there was a new dawn, a new light. Almost like, I'm not saying she is, so don't misconstrue. Almost like she's got the prologue to St. John's Gospel. In the beginning was the Word was with God, and the Word was God, blah, blah, blah. And there was darkness, and the light appeared. And Harry Potter shone like a beacon of hope for those of us who thought the dark days would never end. So there was darkness, and all of a sudden there was light. And Harry was the light. He says, and now terrible things are about to happen. Maybe happening already. He mentions the Chamber of Secrets. And he says, now that it's open once more. Wait, there is a Chamber of Secrets. It's been open before? I'm not Muggle-born. I can't be in danger. Dark deeds are planned, Dobby says. Who? Who's behind it, Dobby? Who's opened it? Dobby says, I can't tell you. He says, okay, one of my best friends is Muggle-born. She'll be first. Harry Potter risks his own life for his friends. So go back to the beginning. He's great, he's good, he's noble, he's valiant, he's bold, he's humble, he's modest. And now, He risks his own life for his friends. Two-word phrase. Self-sacrifice. If he puts his life on the line for his friends, he's saying, Dobby is suggesting, Harry is saying that person's life is worth more than mine. What did Harry say to friends? A half-life cursed forever? Death would be preferable, wouldn't it? This person's life, okay, not a half-life, not cursed forever, but the line about willing to put his life on the line is saying this person's life is preferable to mine. So noble, so valiant, but he must save himself. He must. He must. Screw everybody else, Harry. Okay? So Dobby goes when Madame Pomfrey and Dumbledore come in. And who do they wheel in on a green? Metaphorically, because I know he's like floating. Colin Creevey. Okay? Eyes wide open, hands stuck up in front of him, holding his camera. Petrified, Pomfrey asks. McGonagall, yep. Dumbledore opens the camera. Psst, steam comes out. The film is gone. What does this mean, Albus? McGonagall asks. It means, says Dumbledore, that the Chamber of Secrets is indeed open again. So now Harry has heard it from the headmaster's mouth. But Albus, surely, who? Notice, and what does Dumbledore do? The question is not who, the question is how. Same three letters, wave a wand. Why? Because what are we going to see at the end?
Same thing.
Tom Marvolo Riddle. I am Lord Voldemort. Okay? Rowling's just, and this is where I think, she shows little glimpses of brilliance. If she would just kind of do that kind of thing and screw up the little problems like we talked about earlier. Okay? So, now Harry knows. Chamber of Secrets is real. It has been opened before. It is opened now. Dumbledore knows why Mrs. Norris is petrified and why Colin Creevey is petrified. What he doesn't know is what? How to stop it from happening. Okay? So we get the dueling club. Who duels?
Lockhart and Snape.
Do Lockhart and Snape actually duel?
Oh, no.
They teach,
Harry.
supposedly. Harry and Draco. So, Snape speaks to Draco, tells him what to do. And what does Lockhart tell Harry? Just, wave your wrist. You know how to duel. You know how to fight. Just wave your wrist right. Harry's like, dude, it's not going to help me at all. Okay? And what happens?
Snape goes up and whispers a spell in Draco's ear.
And what does Draco do? Serpensortia. Okay? And a big old... This isn't a little snake. This is a big snake. Looks like it's going to attack Harry? Justin Finch Fletchley, the boy who said he had been down for Eton. In other words, a Muggleborn. And Harry tells the snake to, go away. Get off. All right? So, Harry and Hermione go out. Ron tells Harry, you're a Parselmouth. A what? A Parselmouth. You could talk to snakes. Harry, yeah, I know. Notice, he's never shared that with anybody. I mean, how would that come up in a conversation? I bet loads of people can do it. Ron, no. Not a common, Harry, this is bad. What's bad? I told the snake to leave Justin alone. Oh, that's what, you were there, you heard me. What did they hear? Psst. wrong? What's wrong with me saving Justin? Hermione, being able to talk to snakes was what Salazar Slytherin was famous for. Notice the sibilants. Okay? And Slytherin. And now the whole school is going to think you're his great grandson. Harry, I'm not. How does he know he's not? He doesn't know. You know. Next morning, word has gone around. And Ernie Macmillan kind of turns on Harry. Says, I've heard, you hate those muggles you live with. And Harry's like, you go live with them for a week, Page 202. Harry goes back upstairs. Hold on. He stomps off after leaving Ernie in the library. Goes upstairs and finds himself where? Again? Outside the bathroom, 3rd floor. It's like he's being drawn. And there's Justin Finch Fletchley. Harry got to his feet and nearly had the snake, breathing fast and shallow, page 202. He looks up and down the hall. He could run. No one would know he'd been there. But he couldn't just leave them lying there. He had to get help. It's ingrained into him. And Peeves comes. Sets off the alarm, so to speak. McGonagall shows up. And takes Harry up to Dumbledore. Okay? Harry goes into Dumbledore's office, and what does he witness happening? Or what happens while he's there? He sees the bird. Bird's not looking so great. What else does he see? Hear and touch. The sorting hat. He puts the sorting hat on, page 206. Sorry to bother you. You've been wondering whether I put you in the right house. Yeah, you were particularly difficult. But I stand by what I said. You would have done well in Slytherin. Wrong! Puts the hat down. Okay? Dumbledore comes in. The bird, and Harry says, it's okay, Harry. Fox is a phoenix, 207. Phoenixes burst into flame when it is time for them to die, and they're reborn from the ashes. Watch! And so Harry watches, and whatever. They can carry, he says, immensely heavy loads. Their tears have healing powers, and they make highly faithful pets. All 3 of which qualities are going to be important. Okay? And Dumbledore essentially has one question for Harry. What is it? 209. I must ask you, Harry, whether there's anything you'd like to tell me. Anything at all. Notice it's just totally open-ended. He doesn't, what would a courtroom be called? Leading the witness. He doesn't lead him. He doesn't say, Harry, have you heard disembodied voices while walking through the castle? Because that would kind of plant an idea, possibly. Just anything you want to tell me. Harry thinks of Malfoy shouting, you'll be next, Mudblood. He thinks of Hermione mixing up the polyjuice potion. He thinks of Ron saying, hearing voices no one else can hear isn't a good sign, even in the wizarding world. Because we know what that leads to in our world, right? People who hear voices and the voices tell them to do something often end up being either serial murderers or sociopathic murderers. They go off and they kill a bunch of people. No, nothing. Why is this important? Not just for this book, but for later books. What do we find, to give something away? What do we find out about Dumbledore? He's an accomplished which means essentially in Harry's crude terms, as Snape would call it, he can read minds. So when Harry says, nope, got nothing for you, what's Dumbledore know?
There's definitely
You liar. In effect, he probably sees, oh, Hermione's making Polyjuice Potion. Way to go, Hermione, So, now, Justin, Nearly Headless Nick, Mrs. Norris, okay, go on. They do the Polyjuice Potion. Harry and Ron turn into Crab and Goyle or Goyle and Crab. Doesn't matter which one you call which. They're both, they're blaws. They're like faceless muscle, okay? What does Hermione turn into? Millicent Bulstrode as a cat, kind of a thing, okay? So they sneak down to the Slytherin common room, and they discover what? Red herring. Malfoy is not the heir of Slytherin. You expect Malfoy to be that, right? I mean, with a name like Bad Faith, really. So we get the very secret diary next chapter. And 252. So they've got the diary, page 232. And once Hermione gets back from the infirmary, Harry shows her T.M. Riddle's diary. Told her the story of how they found it. Ooh, might have hidden powers and such, So, what did Riddle get an award for? Special services to Hogwarts. Ron, could have been anything. So they start thinking about it. Hermione, this diary is 50 years old, because that's when Tom Riddle was there. Come on. We know the person who opened the chamber last time was expelled 50 years ago. We know T.M. Riddle got an award for special services to the school 50 years ago. What if Riddle got a special award for, Hermione's just using a little bit of deductive logic here, catching the heir of Slytherin?
What year was Hagrid?
Okay, so we know this happened in 1942, right? And we're going to find out Tom Riddle was what year? He was a fifth year then. Hagrid was third year then. So 11, 12, 13. Hagrid was 13 in 1942. So Hagrid is now 63. Tom Riddle 14, 15. Tom Riddle is now 65. All right? So, Ron rebuts Hermione's little theory with page 233. That's a brilliant theory, Hermione. Just one little flaw. There's nothing written in the diary. It's a blank book. It might be invisible ink, and so she does apparicium. Nothing happens. Okay? Ron makes the comment, 234, that Tom Riddle sounds like Percy, prefect, head boy, etc., etc. Valentine's Day comes. Harry gets, singing telegram kind of things from Ginny. 240. Harry goes up to his room that evening, sits in his bed, pulls the curtains around, and he accidentally drops a drop of ink onto a page, and it disappears. Harry writes, "My name is Harry Potter." The words appear, and then they disappear. And then out of the page, "Hello, Harry Potter. My name is Tom Riddle. How'd you come by my diary?" Someone tried to flush it. Lucky I recorded my memories, etc. Okay? So the diary starts telling Harry stuff, And then it says 241. I can show you if you like. You don't have to take my word for it. How can the diary show him? Come into my diary. What did Tom Riddle say he put in the diary? He recorded his memories. What do one's memories record?
Your perception of things.
Your perception, your perspective, the way you have filtered out certain things, right? Because no one of our memories is like this thing, which is recording me right now. None of our memories work like that. It doesn't record everything that you can just then go beep and play back. Okay? Notice what Harry is doing. What Harry is doing with Tom Riddle's words. How is he regarding them?
It's truth.
As truth. You can. What did Hermione say? You've read of all the things Lockhart did, and Ron says he did. The diary is what Tom Riddle says happened. Okay? It's another issue Rowling is bringing up, starting with this book. Can you trust what you read? No. No. Can you trust what you read if it's in a newspaper?
Absolutely.
Hell no. What's the difference between the Daily Prophet and the Quibbler? One is a standard establishment paper, and the other one is what we would call today a tabloid. Okay? This one is, so to speak, more reliable. The Daily Prophet would be what in our world?
New York Times.
New York Times, not Wall Street Journal, Washington Post, etc. What would the Quibbler be? National Enquirer. And yet, oddly enough, two of the biggest stories, presidential kind of stories, in the last 40 years were broken by the National Enquirer, when all the other major media had the stories and wouldn't print them. Okay? One involved a presidential candidate who was cheating on his wife when she was dying of cancer, John Edwards. So, Harry goes into Tom Riddle's memory. And we will stop there. The last couple of times I've taught this class, I've been able to do this book in one class. And the Sorcerer's Stone in one class.